What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Female Bodybuilding Girls in Gear. I'm your host, Tommy Stiles. With me, Shannon Seeley. Shannon, how are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing, T?
Can't complain. It's another beautiful day. If you are listening on YouTube, like, share, comment, subscribe, ring the bell for more content, segments coming at you every week on the Muscle Media Network. If you'd like to join the Muscle Media Network Facebook group, head on over there, request access, you'll get approved. And then thanks to our sponsor, Kodiak Bodybuilding Apparel, train hard, die strong. Today we are talking about a few things. First off, Shannon's going to talk about her extended off season. So no competing for you in 2024.
Nope. Um, I'll elaborate that. Bear with me a little bit. I'm coming over a cold, so I might have a couple of coughing episodes here. I'm gonna try my best. Yeah, we just decided. So for those who've been following me for a long time, I've been, gosh, this is what 2024. This is going into my 11th year competitively doing stage, doing shows on stage. And I've never actually taken a full year off ever. The only time I took off a full year was when I had my daughter, but I was still dieting down to get back into shape. So I don't really consider that an off season because I was still doing cardio. I still followed a cutting protocol. This is the first season where I'm literally paying my coach. We are going to get fluffy. We are going to put on size. We are going to bring up all the areas that I've really wanted to work on, but I really have been prepping for so long that I really haven't had a good downtime to focus on some of the areas I want to bring up. And after, going pro last year, I'm hitting the pro league now. I'm the underdog. I'm starting at the bottom, and I want to be able to step on stage and be like, damn, like she deserves to be up there. She's in a line. She looks great. You can tell she's a pro. And that's kind of my goal. I want to make sure that I am remembered when I step on stage for my pro debut. So um lots of game planning, lots of correcting, lots of stuff. I'm in my 30s now, so it's a lot. I'm learning my body a lot differently now. I was telling you last week, we were monitoring my blood. My blood sugar was a little bit weird for a little bit. I'm having some gut health issues right now. So it's right now it's like health phase, working on that, and then getting my new training protocol ready. Because I'm in a health phase right now and I'm dealing with a couple of ailments. I'm not pushing as hard as I am in the gym, and that's my coach has me on a deload. This is actually my second deload week. Never done a deload two weeks in a row, but my body actually feels freaking great. Just taking that much intensity off my training, I feel a little bit more recovered and refreshed. And you guys, I'm averaging 10 hours of sleep a night. Like I'm freaking feeling refreshed. Like my body is feeling the best it ever has been this entire off season right now.
Yeah, sleep is king. I'm
It is.
trying to get my sleep somewhat in order and consistent. So definitely not 10. I don't have 10-hour nights, but right now 6 is a good night.
Okay. And
Um,
and and there's no goal for sleep. Just take this. This is me personally. Like I have run myself so thin for some preps where I was only getting 5 and 6. And the older I get, I realize my body responds the best with sleep. This past prep, I think I discussed, I average 8 to 9 hours, and now off season because my training is more intense and I'm lifting a lot heavier. 10 hours for me, I mean, I know if I lighten it a little bit, I don't feel as energetic and full. I'm also like, I don't do any caffeine, I don't do any pre-workout. So like I literally require my rest to be able to get the full effect and help me for the rest of the day.
yeah. Um, Within the training, is there a timeline for how long you're pulling back? Is it while you fix your gut? And because I had to pull back on training for, you know, it was a little over 2 months while I was, taking the gut supplements or the supplements for my gut. You really got to keep yourself from getting too sympathetic as far as your nervous system. So is that what the approach is?
Yeah, right now, just because not going into detail with my gut health because we don't want to hear all that, but just because I'm not gaining any weight right now. I'm not losing. I'm just in a stagnant spot because my body can't absorb any nutrients with whatever's going on. So right now, my coach and I, we talked, the best game plan for us is to still work out, but just be mindful of the intensity. We're really pushing on not over stressing my body right now and not overloading it to the point where like my recovery and my gut health, like all my inflammation is fighting each other. So basically, like right now, I'm at 70% of my normal training. And I'm okay with that. I'm actually, the only thing I'm really struggling with is we talk about the importance of, rest days. I usually average 2 rest days in my off season. He has me doing 3 off days right now, and that's a little bit more challenging for me. Never having that, but it also means that I have a little bit more energy for the 4 days that I am training. Like this shouldn't be long. We're hoping that we can get all this stuff fixed by the end of the month, maybe early February, and then kind of really get back into putting on some weight, putting on some size, just getting into deeper into my off season. Just so you guys kind of know, typically my off season at this point, I'm usually 185 to 190 pounds. I'm 170. My stage weight is 160. So I'm kind of stagnant right now, not putting on anything. And so that's kind of like that's kind of what we're just kind of figuring out. Nothing's changed supplement wise, food wise. It's just, it happens. It could be, I work on a farm. I own a farm. Like I could have gotten a parasite. So it's kind of just trying to pinpoint what's going on, what I can do to avoid this, especially I'm glad it's happening now than it's happening while I'm in prep. Let's just say it that way. I think we all I don't mind when I have health issues and stuff. Better to just have it when you're in your off season. It's easier to fix, I feel like, than when you're in the middle of prep and then all shit goes loose and then you got to course correct it.
Yeah, I mean, if it happens in a prep and it's depending on the severity and the context of it, I mean, it could shut down a prep because prep is nothing but stress on your body that you're just trying to mitigate with drugs, low body fat, and just the mental, surge people feel while they're in prep because they're so fixated on the show and the deadline and the days out, and it's a lot. So if your gut is doing something that's not constructive in prep, I mean, I've seen people we saw pros this year have to pull out of the Olympia because of gut health stuff. So I think it's a lot more, there's no one thing that's causing gut issues amongst bodybuilders. I know everyone wants to point the finger at drugs. That's not it. It contributes. Not naive to say that taking drugs doesn't put stress on your body, which will affect how your gut functions. But we as a society are exposed to so many more environmental toxins than we were. Mold exposure is, I mean, a lot of people don't talk about that, but that's something to always look into if you live in apartments. I mean, when you sign a lease in Michigan, I know in Michigan specifically because I'm from there, when you just initial through all those papers that no one takes the time to read, and I didn't either, you're actually agreeing that there's lead exposure in your place you're about to move into, and you're cool with that. But that could take a toll on your health with, heavy metal toxicity. And there's a lot of different things that kind of you can put yourself down all these rabbit holes if you find yourself just having unexplained illness out of nowhere or autoimmune conditions. So luckily, I did my GI map. It was messed up, but there was a protocol created that wasn't too invasive. It was just supplements, pulling back on training, removing stimulants, and just, a lot of we talked a lot about habits on the last episode. Improving my habits. So that's where the focus is on sleep, having a bedtime, having a wake up time that's set so I can, focus on circadian rhythms, all these little things that hopefully can make me better and less susceptible to having to go down that hole again. And then, our food, what you eat, quality of your food. I mean, you can't eat much cleaner than you do growing and creating all your own food. But, everything I can buy organic, I do. When you get older, you start wanting to pay for quality versus, being a bodybuilder and just trying to afford it all. The way I eat now versus when I was younger is very, very different. So I think it'll be good for you. I think, from a bodybuilding standpoint, and I was just talking with Michaela about this yesterday, there's something to be said about skipping a season to stay in an off season. a lot of people get stuck in the cycle of competing every year, which isn't a bad thing if you're making incremental progress each year. But to make like, oh shit, progress, and to have new tissue that sticks and to hold like a new body weight for extended periods of time, to like the next time you start a prep, you're going to be just, you can't even look at comparisons to your last prep because it's so different. It's a new playing field. That does take an entire season off, like no competing, no cuts, no beach look. Like it's just, you're in the zone for 12 months. And that's what 2024 will be for you. It's what it'll be for me too, because my plans altered with, having to address the stuff I just talked about. So I've done that most of my career, where I've always skipped a year in between shows, at least one. And that's what, I move up a weight class every time I do that. And there's just a new level of muscularity that you'll hold. But I don't think you can do that without taking the season off. And I think a lot of people can benefit hearing that, because it's hard. It's hard to be like, yeah, I'm not dieting for one day for the next 12 months, other than maybe a quick little mini cut. It's a long haul. Pushing food it's a lot of work. Prepping food in the off season is much more time consuming than prep. So, but I do think this is what's going to level you up to be very competitive at your pro debut, which I know is a goal for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's one of those things when I had that, when I was chasing that pro card every season, like I was making small incremental improvements, but it wasn't usually when you see the, from the amateur level, it's more just, we kind of are dialing our leanness. It's more like every season, it's not necessarily we're getting a shit ton of new muscle and tissue growth, because our off seasons, I mean, my off seasons maybe were 4 to 5 months. You cannot put on a substantial amount, but what it did is it just, it taught my body, as every cut, you get better and better with getting your conditioning better. And I think we see that a lot with the amateur level. Is it's not necessarily about the size. We don't see any people typically that are like, damn, like they're massive Olympia ready, but you can see as their improvements with their conditioning and the leanness. And then with the pro debut, that's when we really see like the night and day difference with the tissue size, because most pros like myself are going to take, you don't see a lot of pros jumping right into a pro show unless they just want to get the feedback and see what they have to do to improve. Most of the time, you're going to see them take 1 or 2 years off, because they know that they have to bring in that size just to be able to stand on stage with them and look like they are in that category. I think that's the biggest downfall, is people are like, oh, you're ready, jump on stage. I know for myself, I was big at North Americans, but I would look so small with my muscle density and everything compared to these physique competitors at the professional level, especially if my goal is to get to Olympia. Damn, I got a lot of work to do. It's one of those things where you have to be realistic with yourself too. Obviously, like I want to make it to the Olympia stage, but realistically, it's not going to happen within the next year. It might not happen the next 2 years. It's just, it's the same thing. You're setting long-term realistic goals, and I'm not rushing into this. It's going to happen when it happens.
I don't know off the top of my head the ages of most of the top 10 at the women's physique in the division right now, but I do know in the female bodybuilding, other than Michaela, the majority of the top 10 are mid to late 30s, and some are in their 40s. So zoom out from where you're at if you're listening to this, and realize if this is, she's talking about winning a pro show and going to the Olympia as a goal. And you're what?
31? I'm 31. I'm 31.
So in understanding the time that it's going to take for that to happen. And so you're playing a long game. It's chess, not checkers. And that's what I tell people to look at. It's not a matter. And you can apply it to where you're at. If you're listening and you're an amateur, you might need to do what she's doing, what I'm talking about doing after winning an overall at the local level before going to the national level, because there's a lot of people who win an overall because there's just not the quality of competition, and there's too many shows in all the states now, and it's watered down, who go to their first national show and get mobbed. And it's because they just didn't have enough. The discrepancy between tissue needed for the national level and a local show is exactly the same as what we're talking about, going from being a national or winning your pro card to being a contender to win a pro show. It's a size jump. So you might be a big fish in a small pond at one, and then when you go up, now you're the minnow again. So I see, I'm glad we're talking about this because there's a lot of people who I've seen competing, who competed after me. I competed in July of 2023 was my last show, who did shows after me and are already talking about getting started in prep here in the next like 10 to 12 weeks. And I'm like, where was the time to improve? I mean, you had to take time coming off drugs, assuming you're enhanced. And either way, if you're not on drugs, you need time to chill and like recover, especially as a natural. So where was the improvement period? What different physique could you possibly bring other than what you said? You might be a bit leaner just because you're basically sandwiching two preps together to where you didn't get too far away from your prep look.
Yeah.
And a lot of none of these people that I see for the most part are in a position where they have enough size to be doing something like that. So you're just competing out of probably boredom, and it's you're a habitual competitor, but you're not actually getting better. And your looks, if you lined all your looks up year to year to year, if you've been doing that for a while, they're probably all relatively the same. It's just maybe a bit leaner each time, or a bit harder because you get some drug recomp.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, if you guys look at pictures from like 2014 to current, obviously, like I have made some substantial improvements with my training and my growth and stuff, but with the short periods of the off season I've had, I'll say most of the growth period I had was just that very minuscule amount of off season I had, but then it's the drugs. I mean, it's like training with the drugs just to help, grow those muscles quicker. But I'm excited now, this full off season. I mean, I've been off everything since October. My blood work is decent. It's not perfect right now. That's what we're working on. But being able to train naturally for at least a good percentage of this off season is probably my most exciting thing, because I'm able to see where I'm naturally at strength wise. Like, I'm a very strong individual just without any gear. So I'm really excited to see where I can push my limits with that. The downfall I will say that I'm really struggling with, and I'll be honest, is my recovery. Damn, it doesn't matter what I'm taking, EAAs, glutamine, anything. I have to, like, I have not been this sore in so long, and I have to embrace that, because I forget that I was treated with all this gear that I've been on. The recovery's just been phenomenal. So embracing that recovery for me has been the most challenging thing, and being like, man, this is a lot worse than I thought. So I've been embracing that. I've been learning that obviously your body's gonna respond differently when you're not running stuff for long periods of time. And I mean, since October to now, that's already been a substantial about 4 months. So I'm training hard. My recovery is a lot longer, but it's fun to see what my body is able to do naturally.
Yeah, I just went through that. It was actually a good insights to, what I need to, some of the same principles I need to keep even being back on a cycle. Like, I'm guilty of doing junk volume and kind of letting my rep quality go away when I'm on a cycle because I have the recovery capabilities. But I do think when you're in a position like yours, or like I ran pure TRT for 3 months, which for me is the first time I've ever been that low in probably 8 years. And I don't do anything to get my own production going again. I have no desire to have kids, so that's not like, it's not a concern for me. So it was, I didn't feel great. Similar to you. It was like, wow, this leg days are a lot harder to recover from. But I did get some insights, and Dante's made a post about this too. And I think everyone can benefit from it if you are enhanced. Is when you're looking to make more progress, ask yourself, what would the natural me do? And you have to lower your training frequency. So for you, I've noticed a huge difference when I do train 4 days a week versus 5. I did my whole prep 4. I'm doing 5 right now, but I could see at a certain point, if recovery starts to suffer, I'll go back to 4 days. I don't mind it. I don't mind having days off, but you have to really look at every rep of every set has to be super intentional. And in something like that, I wouldn't recommend any drop sets, any supersets, any intensifiers, just straight reps, really still keep a logbook, still aim to get, stronger somehow, some way, whether it's the load progressions are going to be much, much smaller. So it might only be 2.5 to 5 pounds a session. And it might not even be every session. It might be like you go up weight, you get lower reps, and then you try to get a few more reps at that weight, and then you go up again another little 2.5. But really obsessed with that progression ladder, and you can still make progress. And I think with the long off season, it really creates a runway to learn how to push food and hold that amount of food consistently. Density equals time at a certain weight or a certain, it doesn't. So hitting a peak body weight in the off season and then starting prep a week later, that's just water. That's going to fall off the first 2 weeks of prep. So it didn't stick. But if you take your peak off season weight from where you were at previously and put 15 pounds on that, let's say by the end of an off season, and you're not, a tub of shit, like you hold a good look, that will translate to tissue that stays on the body when you go through a prep. But it's just about going through the hard part of shoveling food in your face every single day like it's a job, being selective with how you're going to push the gear, and the recovery, like you talked about, like sleep. It's very boring. Off season's boring. I think that's why no one wants to take the time to do it, because it's monotony. It's literally the same things every day. And like when you accept that, and the longer you've been in it, like for me, I'm like obsessing over every hour right now, because it's like this meal at this time, go for steps at this time, work on my computer doing client stuff at this time. And then by the time all that's done, it's like time to get ready to eat the next meal. And it's like, that's what I got to do to keep my gut in play. I got to have a stop time that I get ready to go to bed to try to fall asleep, to work on getting that in order. Every hour of your day matters when you're trying to put on, real quality muscle tissue. So, be intentional with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's one thing too, is, I'm very busy with what I do. I literally run 4 businesses. And I do, like, when I function, I've heard, people tell me 10 hours of sleep is too much. I literally sleep train myself. I literally make sure I have literally like alarms on my phone says, hey, you're 45 minutes before your scheduled bedtime. Get in bed. And I wake up, and my body, like I'm telling you, just like we talked about the last podcast, the habits, like once you're in them, like my body's used to it. Like it's ready. It's like it knows when it's wind down time. Like I'm also like this year I practice a lot more with not being on my phone or not watching TV an hour and a half before bed. I'm reading, I'm journaling, I'm doing something that's going to really suppress my mind. And it's really helping me get a lot more. I'm getting a lot more deep sleep too, which is great right now. It's great for the recovery, great because my body feels like shit from the recovery, from training so hard. So it's been I'm really excited for this off season. And I know I did a post and we talked about this a couple podcasts ago about like how I have muscle irregularities and I have this torn rotator cuff. And I've been really, I'm really pushing like my posing. That's one thing I'm really focusing on this whole entire off season too, is posing. And we talk about it all the time, but posing, and I'm trying to work with a physical therapist right now to just kind of just get some of these muscles broken up. But being able to pose, even in my off season, when I'm a lot more fluffy, I'm already making sure that I'm getting all the kinks worked out, because I know that's one of those things when I'm in a pro stage, you have to look the part, you have to act the part, you have to have that professional posing. So why not start it now? Because that way I'm not even thinking about it when I step on stage. And that's another thing people I think start negating in their off season, is the posing and the quality of their posing. I'm like, you should be hitting it all the time, like once a day at least, because that you're just building up your muscles, your mind connection, everything. It should become instinctual. I will never forget my first show. I think I didn't realize, and most competitors make this mistake. They do not realize the importance of posing. They do not realize, most of them go in and don't realize, hey, most categories will have like a prejudging routine or a prejudging, 30 or 45-second display. I don't know. I don't think males do it as much, but females have a bikini figure. We all have like a 30-second to 45-second free round where we have to display and I didn't know that my first show. They never had it in the protocols. And so I'm trying to hit my poses, was not practicing them, had no idea. I'm looking at the competitors to see what I'm supposed to do. And that was the biggest eye opener and mistake that I ever made. And I learned from it. But now I always tell people, like, you could have the part of your physique great. You could be training for years. You could step on stage and have the most conditioned physique. But if you don't have your posing corrected, or you don't have the shakiness out or the stability of looking like a professional, you are literally screwed on stage. They are not going to take one look at you. And I always tell people the importance of posing. It's showcasing your physique. They will literally not look at you if you're not showcasing that properly. So that's one of those things I've been a huge, like my transitions, everything, making sure I'm showing all my best angles. So I'm really hoping when I step on this pro stage, like you'll be able to be like, hey, wow, she's been practicing. There should be no shakiness. It should be nice and poised, nice and presented. So that's my 2 cents with that, because I just was watching somebody posing the other day and I'm like, you got a lot of work to do. So
Yeah, I get sent some videos. People will, hey, can you take a look at this? And I don't even watch it through. I'll be like, hey, I'm just going to be brutally honest. You need to hire a posing coach like yesterday. Like, I don't
yeah,
know why you're putting all that money into your prep, but you have no idea what you're doing. A lot of people, some people at the younger level don't even know how the structure of a show works. So if you've never been to a show, sit through one, prejudging and finals, kind of see how it looks. Like it goes like that. It's not like this long drawn out thing where it's a long day for you as a competitor, but your time on stage is like a 0.5% of that. So
yeah,
learn the structure of the show and have it built into your, like, I knew what I was getting into 10 years ago. And then from there, it's been further, enhanced. And obviously you can't prepare for shows and venues you've never been to. And, the first time you do a pro show is the first time you do a pro show, right? So you're not going to know what to expect. But if everything that you're talking about is muscle memory, it's like, I know how to get into my front double. I know how to get into my side chest, boom, boom, boom. It's second nature. Then, at least that part's covered, and wherever, anything else that is uncontrollable is, doesn't look as drastic. So if you had to, I know because it's way too early to pick a show. If you had to pick a show that you're doing for 2025, what would it be? I love putting you on.
well, I'm thinking either, honestly, so they're both way different timelines, and we'll see how this off season goes. But I am looking at the Pittsburgh Pro or Legion Fest. Legion Fest is a little bit later in the year. Pittsburgh Pro is a little bit early in the year. I'm in Michigan, so I look at the factors of obviously like the financial, like how expensive it's going to be for me to travel. But I really like both of those shows. I think Pittsburgh's right. I mean, it's a 5-hour drive from my house. It's not that far. Great competitors there. I mean, I already know competitors that are pros that live in Pittsburgh that would be there. But I don't know. I was looking at those. It's just I just think it's gonna kind of see where the chips fall, basically, because my coach could be like, hey, I could be doing my rounding on my off season in October and be like, hey, I want you to step on the pro show the earliest that we can for next year. So I think we're just gonna play it by ear. If I had those two shows, I do have in my head Pittsburgh Pro or Legion Fest. But again, those are huge timeline differences too. So
What about Toronto? Is that in there?
I thought about Toronto. I'm from Michigan, so it's easy to just go over the border, but I don't know, man, like traveling to the other countries, like they're in kilometers and like just like driving, because I would drive probably, wouldn't fly. And that drive to Toronto, I don't know if you've ever done it from Michigan. It's brutal. That's what I just think about that mass. I hate that drive. That's the only thing that's shined me away. I would have to fly, I think, to Toronto because I would not do that drive.
It's not that long. It's shorter than Pittsburgh.
It's so boring though. It's so
Oh
boring. And
yes, I didn't say it
the
would be
speed
fun.
limit's so slow. So it's
It
like,
is, yeah, it is. I've driven through Canada a lot, but it's
yeah,
the time, I guess, to drive isn't that bad though. But yeah, it is.
yeah.
The
It's
speed
just
limit is
slow.
brutal.
Yeah.
If you do, like, I got pulled over once in Canada, and I was just like, honestly, I don't know. My car doesn't have kilometers, so I don't know how fast I'm going. And it was nighttime, and the guy was like, "Oh yeah, you were doing 90 in a 60." And I was like, "Oh really, that fast? I thought I was going with the flow of traffic." And he let me go. So you can probably try to play dumb if you did get pulled over. A little tip for anybody driving
Yeah.
in a different country. But so kind of switching gears off of where you're at with your personal. We were talking off air about checking in, taking check-ins as a coach, but also, something that I think is important. And we've seen different, I guess, people come under the fire over the years for when it comes to female competitors for being inappropriate as far as how they take check-ins. So put out a little bit of what to you is like a note. What's inappropriate for a coach asking for check-ins from a female competitor?
This goes in, obviously it depends because there are male and female coaches. My number one red flag, and I do this as a coach myself, I do lifestyle and prep, primarily lifestyle. Most coaches should, they require virtual check-ins every week, or however you have your schedule, which requires you to either be in your bathing suit, underwear, some sort of garment that you can kind of see the physique. You should never have a coach telling you. First of all, they should never tell you like, hey, I need you to be in a thong and like a G-string, or hey, you should be topless when you're doing this so I can see all of it. You should never feel uncomfortable when sending check-ins. For instance, like when I have my check-ins for my clients, I literally tell them, if you are not comfortable wearing a bathing suit, put on something extremely tight fitting so I can see your physique. And it's for lifestyle and competitor and check-in competitors are a little bit different. But if the coach is making you feel uncomfortable about how they want you to check in, you need to say something, or you need to, make sure that that's a normal, well, I can't think of it, a normal technique that coaches use, or if it's something that's kind of like an outlier, because I have seen individuals where their coaches have asked them to send nude pictures. That is not okay. Your coach should never send you nude pictures. Now, I have seen this, okay, and this is kind of a gray area. And I have done it myself where I have been in, like, I'm doing a spray tan and my coach wants pictures right then and there. I can't put clothes on. So I will send update pictures, but I will literally block out all of the body parts that you're not supposed to see. So there's a fine line, and obviously that comes with trust. I also let my clients know when they send their pictures, it is for me only. If I'm going to post them on social media, I have to reach out to them. I will never post a picture of my client without their authorization. So if your coaches are also, most coaches are going to ask their clients, and that should be like a normal thing. Hey, I'm going to post a picture of you. Is that okay? Because you do have the right to tell your coach too, I never told you could post that picture, take it down. Overall, your coach should make you feel comfortable. They should never make you feel embarrassed about how you look. They should never be making you question the comfortability, especially when you are in, this is a very vulnerable setting when you're with a coach. It's very like, it's sometimes, my first thing was very uncomfortable because you're literally sending somebody pictures that you're probably not feeling your best at, and you're letting them critique you and they're letting them see you. So the biggest thing is, if it's in your head that it doesn't feel right, it most likely is not. And it could be like something could feel right to somebody, and versus the other person feel like, hey, this doesn't feel appropriate to me. That's totally fine. You just have to communicate that to your coach. But number one thing, your coach should never be asking you, say, hey, I only want you to send me naked pictures, or I only want you to send me pictures in a G-string. No, that is not okay. Most coaches, like, I will give an example, bathing suits, comfortable underwear, tight fitting clothes. My coach always just says, hey, put your posing suit on, or put something on that you're comfortable with, just as long as I can see your lines. So as long as you vocalize that, and I've coached clients to be like, hey, I'm not comfortable. I just want to wear a really tight tank top and spandex. Fine. We'll work on that later on. But work with your coach if you're not comfortable with what they're asking. And if they still aren't, it is okay to fire a coach. Just like it is okay for a coach to fire a client, you're literally paying them for a service. Just like shopping around. I always tell people, when you're looking for a new coach, you can interview them. It's okay to talk to them, interview with them and stuff. You are investing a lot of time and a lot of money with this individual. So make sure it feels right. Don't just go to the first person and be like, oh, I like them. It is okay to say no, and it is okay to walk away from somebody that makes you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a female, but to me, it's just common sense too. Like, if it doesn't sound right, like if you're questioning it, if a coach makes a request and it just sets off an alarm in your brain, don't do it.
Yeah.
I've never understood, like, I hear these stories about some of these shit bags getting blasted online for some of the shit they request, where it's like girls bending over with a G-string on, or the coach giving a reason of why he needs to see them in the nude. And it's like, there has to be some radar in your brain that goes off is like, I don't think I should do this,
Yeah.
competitor or not. So, as a male who works with females, I'm very, it's everything's laid out in the starting PDFs that you get from me. If your lifestyle, I let you check in what you want. For some
that's how I
people,
am.
it might be a big t-shirt and shorts. That might be what you want to be consistent. The biggest thing is just being consistent in what you check in.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can't check in a hoodie and sweats, but I don't give like clothing requirements. I think a lot of people are okay in a sports bra and maybe some spandex shorts on the female side. As a competitor, if you've been doing it a while, you're probably comfortable enough in most settings. But if you're newer or you want to get into it, like a coach needs to be able to see everything that you're going to be showing on stage, especially in the prep. I know a lot of girls and guys, because I actually have to get on some of my guys about this in the off season. Like, I don't need G-string, but I need to be able to see glutes. I can't have shorts that go all the way down to the glute ham tie-in, because a lot of people hold, more fat on their glutes. That's their fattest area. And if that area is like getting fatter, but it's kind of being compressed because there's a spandex short or bikers, like the underwear I wear as a dude they go down to almost my knees. They're form fitting. So I don't have a lot of fat on my legs anyway, but they do create a shape that probably isn't there if they're not there, if that article of clothing isn't there. So I see this with dudes a lot that don't want to wear their trunks year round. Like, since 2017, I have not checked in once without posing trunks. Whether that's fat as fuck, hairy, everything, or an hour out from the stage. So if your goal is to be a competitor and take this far, get used to it. They make practice suits for females for all the I know that all the divisions do it now. It's obviously a moneymaker. So invest in a practice suit. Then you don't have to worry about what to wear. When you travel, you take your practice suit with you. It's like, it's never a thought. But it seems to be like younger girls usually are prime targets. And I would say probably the bikini division is, where those younger girls fall in. And I hear these stories over the years, and I don't understand why there wasn't like a radar in the brain that was just like, this doesn't sound right. That's like somebody being like, hey, come get some candy out of my van. Why would you do that?
The same thing too is like, and I've experienced it. I know girls have, and it's I'm not going to name drop, but it's a little bit taboo, but your coach should not be texting you and saying, wow, you looked really hot in your updates, or wow, this is a professional business. And I'm one of those, I require all my clients, if it's nutrition based and it's not an emergency, they need to respond all through email. I have literally files for all my clients, and they go in there. If it's an emergency, they can text me and stuff. But as a client, you should not be having, obviously some of the relationships will differ depending if you're really good friends or not, but you should not be texting your coach every day random shit that's not regarding your program. They should not be texting you every day asking you random stuff that's not regarding your program, unless that's the type of relationship or friendship that you have. But typically with a professional standpoint, like, I'm only texting my coach if I have a question regarding one of my, something that's on my program or my training. I'm not texting me like, hey, how's your day? What did you do today? You should keep those separate. Okay. And I've actually had to let clients go because I literally am very strict with my clients. I don't train a lot of my friends. I don't prep a lot of my friends for this reason. It's a professional business. I keep everything separate. So when you're sending me memes or you're sending me photos or you're sending me shit that doesn't regard to your program, I don't care. It sounds mean, but you hired me for your coach. You did not hire me to be your friend. And some people try to push that limit too and understand, like, I try to be as nice as possible, but there are instances too where people are just going off the deep end and just trying, they think that you're your best friend too, and it's not. You have to understand that you are hiring somebody to help you with your goals, not your life problems. It sounds harsh, but at the same time, like, I don't know if you do this with your intake. When I do intake forms for my clients, I literally say, Who is going to be working, like supporting you with your goals? Do you have a healthy support system at home? And I do not, when people send intakes back and they say, you will be my support system, I say, no, I will not. I'm your tool, I'm your guide, but I'm not going to hold your hand and say, hey, you missed a meal. You know, you can do this. I'm there for your tool. I'll motivate when I can, but you have to make sure that you have your own support system that you can vent to about your life problems and stuff, because someone like you or I, where I have established clients and quite a few, it gets very overwhelming if your phone's blowing up every day and it's not regarding your program or your nutrition or anything regarding your protocol. So be respectful of your coaches. I could go on and on about this, but it's to the point where it starts stressing out your coach. And I literally just did an Instagram post because I had to let clients go because there was no fine line. It was just like, oh, all of a sudden, like we were best friends, and I was like, that's not how this works. So be respectful of that too. Like you have to set boundaries with your coach and the relationship. And if it feels weird, it feels off, you need to address it or move on. This comes from just even a coaching standpoint or a client standpoint. If the client feels like something's off, figure it out, talk to your coach or move on. Same thing. Is your coach, something feels off, you know, just make sure that you have that communication. That is my key as a coach. You need to communicate, but you can't overly communicate. Like, I don't care if you drink some water. Like, hey, I'm drinking water right now. You proud of me? Don't care. Keep doing your stuff. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know if that comes off too harsh. I'm not trying to make it come off too harsh, but I'm not going to give you a gold star for everything that you're doing right on your program.
No, I think that's the culture you're creating within your brand. I do the same thing. You know, I don't reshare people that tag me just because they're doing cardio that I told them to do. Like, good job. I might not even engage in the tag. I might just let it go because I don't want to create that. First of all, I don't want that to be my brand where you just come to my page and you see 50 stories of my clients doing remedial shit that they're paying me to tell them to do. You know, I share transformations, I share, you know, testimonials or stuff that, you know, people have overcome. That's cool to me, but, you know, doing cardio 6 days a week is like, I'm going to do that as much as I'm going to go to bed every night. Like, that's how built in it is. So I don't need to tell anyone that I'm doing that. It's just like, I would feel off mentally if I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Same thing with my steps, same thing with I mean, I'm always drinking water on these podcasts. Like, I'm a camel. I don't need to talk about it. That comes with experience and wisdom. Like, I think when you're younger, you get into it. You're kind of like, if you're getting into it to make friends and have like to belong to something, that can get pretty problematic, I think, for a lot of people. Because when I got into bodybuilding, I was just doing it for me. I didn't know any other bodybuilders. I didn't know you yet. I didn't know anyone. I knew the guy that was about to coach me. That was it.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, creating a culture, if you're a coach listening to this, like, one, don't ever ask a female for nudes if you're a guy. Or a girl too, I guess. I mean, there's no reason to send nude pictures. Like, it's not that kind of thing. So but create the culture that you want to be known for. You know, don't think that if you show a bunch of stories that people tag you in just for doing cardio, it's going to get you more clients. Because I promise you, it doesn't. If I see people like that, I mute or unfollow them. I don't give a shit that your bikini competitors are doing cardio at 4 a.m. Like, cool. You probably told them to do cardio. That to me, that's like, you're a bad parent. And if your kid's misbehaving, that's an analogy, like how I look at it. Like, control your herd. Like, you have a stable of clients, that's your brand.
Yeah.
You control the type of content you put out based off that brand. So that was
and that's one thing. Like, I try to set boundaries too with my clients, because I don't know. I've had people that get so excited, which I'm so happy when I get clients that are so excited to start the program, but it almost gets to the point where it's like, hey, can I send you this? I'm going to send you this entire video of me prepping my food to make sure I'm doing it correctly. No, I literally say, don't waste my time. Like, you should either know how to, and I've had people like, well, wow, are you crabby today? That's bitchy. No, I don't want to see a 20-minute video of you prepping your food. You either know how to prep it or you don't. So just make sure too, when you get overly excited, like your coach, you're paying for your coach and you're paying for their time, but you're not paying for 24 hours of their time every day. I always say I'm here for support if someone needs it, but you got to understand, like you're hiring somebody, they're making you accountable, but you have to hold yourself accountable and know, yes, I'm either doing this right or I'm not. I don't know. It's just, that was just my kickoff for 2020. I literally did a whole rant on Instagram about this because it was just like, me as a coach, I struggled last year trying to keep everyone happy. They're like, oh yeah, send me those videos of cooking for 20 minutes. And oh yeah, send me this. And I realized how much time I was wasting and how much I didn't bring any value to me. And it really didn't bring any value to them. And so I started to have to be a little bit more harsh with my clients and be like, you're either taking this seriously or not. So just like be mindful, let your try to figure out your coach's guidelines. And it's okay to be like, hey, am I overstepping if I send you this? Or hey, is it okay if I show you how I'm prepping? I'm confused, but don't just make it a habit. Like every day, you shouldn't be sending your coach text, good morning, how are you today? Like it's a very professional business. And if you don't understand that, then you shouldn't be working with a coach because it's almost like the same thing with a therapist. You don't text your therapist every time you have an issue. You have that one session with them and then maybe email them for different outliers, but you pay for people's time to an extent. But if you overstep boundaries, it starts creating a really hostile relationship, basically, where it almost is going to be like, oh, I don't even want to talk to this person today because I've been talking to him for 6 hours yesterday about their protocol.
Yeah, no, I mean, I outline communication communication is paramount in online coaching, but I outline the guidelines for it when I start people. It's, email for check-ins, and then I use WhatsApp. I don't use text message. Text messages for that's my life. I don't answer texts like in a timely fashion unless it's urgent.
I know you don't.
Anybody that knows me knows that. Like I'll be like, I'm not in a brain space to get to this, but I might screen it and realize it doesn't need an immediate answer. But WhatsApp, I only go in that to work. That's where people send me training videos. That's where clients can back and forth. And truthfully, I prefer the back and forth, not anything like you were saying. Like no one ever has asked me how are you. I think it's because I kind of cast an intimidating presence to where it's pretty obvious. Don't send me that type of shit. But that type of rapport that I could build with someone over time, especially in a prep. Like I might not be long-winded in a check-in, but I can promise you, like when I'm prepping people, I'm thinking about their shows and their deadlines and what I got to do next, and what I'm thinking about the moves I'm going to make based off how they're going to respond. And then I may get into some back and forth with them. Like I might ask them like, hey, how are you feeling today? How did you feel after training? There's a lot of feedback that I can extract from just having conversations with people, especially newer people. Because a lot of times you can't give good feedback if you don't know what you don't know. I mean, I didn't know how to give feedback when I started. So there might be some conversations back and forth like, hey, what do you feel like when you flex? Does anything happen? Like, because everyone's going to think they're flat, but I want to know how flat are you? There's a lot of different contexts around that. So I do go back and forth with people more, especially in a prep. Off season, I mean, as long as you're checking your boxes, I don't need to know much. But telling a coach what's going on in your life, there's just a limit. There's some stuff that you don't need to share, but if it's stuff that's affecting your ability to adhere to the plan, or if it's life stuff that's causing stress to be through the roof, that's probably having an effect on digestion. Your weight could be way up, your training performance or sleep could be affected. A lot of things can be affected if there's something significant happening in your life. So that type of stuff needs to be communicated. But just everyday updates and asking coaches how their days are, like you're in it for the wrong reason. You're probably not going to last. Like if someone was asking me how I'm doing or shit like that in a weird way, I would probably just get rid of them. Unless there's a way to do it, like end of an update, like, hey, I hope you're doing well. Like that's fine. But WhatsApp is like, what do you need from me? Why are you messaging me? What does this have to do with what we do for each other? And that's what it's there for. I encourage it. I encourage WhatsApp communication. Some people I have to like pry into and be like, hey, is everything good? Like, you check in every week, everything seems good, but like, is it good? Like, you can use this resource. the point is a coach, if they're doing it as a business, is going to set the culture, is going to set the communication guidelines. Like I said, my clients do not text me. I don't use text messaging for clients because I like to keep it separate. Text messages for my life, WhatsApp is for work. So however your coach does it, that's same thing. I don't like to talk about plans in DMs because a lot of, Instagram is, I can't keep track of it.
Yep.
So
exactly. I always say that's the biggest thing. No, like I've had people try to talk to me and their stuff on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter. No, all that stuff has to go in either the platforms I've told you to discuss because it's too hard if so many people are messaging. Another coaching, I always say another coaching flag I always have too is if somebody is working with another coach and then reaches out to another coach to ask questions about that coach's program. I never, if somebody's working with a coach, and I know you've done the same thing, if somebody is working with somebody else and they come to me, I go right away, I'm sorry, like I'm not your coach. You need to discuss that with your coach. And that is just proper coaching etiquette. If they say, oh, hey, I'll help you out, pay me a couple extra bucks. Like, no, like I hate that. And it's one of those things like I respect all the coaches. I don't care if I think you're a good coach or bad coach. If you're working, if someone approaches me and working with somebody else, I say, I'm sorry, you need to discuss that with yours. I'm not your coach. I don't know your background. I don't know the same thing. I've seen it where people are bashing their coach on their ex-coach or something online, but you don't know the background. You don't know how their protocol was. So it's kind of like you have to be mindful of how you talk to other coaches and understand like we're a small knit community because I know clients who have moved from coach to coach to coach, and I think they get a bad rap, and then coaches don't want to work with you because of your rap. So just know that even if you're a client and you're switching coach to coach, we know, like, I mean, we'll all talk to each other. I mean, we've talked, you and I have talked, like, I mean, we know which clients is just like, no, like, I don't think they take it seriously. So just be mindful of that is if you're trying to get in this community, this bodybuilding thing, you do have an image and you do have a reputation, and it's going to either perceive you as a positive or a negative, depending on how committed you are with a coach.
Yeah, no, that I'll handle that in two ways. Like if someone, brings me something from a coach and if it's a drug question and it sounds crazy, I might just say, that's not how I would do it. That's it though. I'm not going to go into it. I'm not going to tell you what I would do.
Yeah.
Like that's your thing. You need to address that. Or I'll do what you do. I just say, hey, like take it up with your coach. Like it's not my place to say anything. I don't armchair quarterback. I don't know what's going on. I don't even know unless it was like someone super close. Like if you came to me with a question, then that's a different story. But
Right.
if it's like someone random at the gym wanting to ask me about what I think of what so-and-so did with their protocol or did with their food or their cardio, like, I don't know. I don't care. I think there's this villainizing perspective on making people work hard now. If you make someone do too much cardio, it's a problem. Like I don't think that. I've had people do 2 hours of cardio like without feeling bad. Like that's what you signed up for. I've done it. I've had to do it, and I didn't run to anybody and ask if they thought that. I was excited. I was like, this is what I have to do to get peeled. This sounds fun.
Yeah.
But with the clients too, like Andrew Barry actually brought up an idea once, and I hope I want someone to like take it and run with it. But coaches getting like a pipeline and keeping like an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Drive sheet that we all share. Every time you have a shitty client, you put them in the Excel, so that way you have a reference point. Because I mean, over the years, you start to hear people, and I just listen to everything neutrally. I don't, somebody has a horrible coaching story, I'll just, okay, that sucks. Like now you're here to about it, but I don't I don't form my opinion of someone based off of what this person's telling me because I don't know how this person is as a client.
Right.
I know, and you don't see that online. You see online clients bashing coaches and horrible coaches, but you don't see coaches bashing horrible clients.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, like, I've been coaching for a while, you two, and a lot of other people can relate. Like, we've all had some horror stories, just some awful people who, whether they never made it to check in on time, their payments were always late, their check-in forms were half filled out. Their pictures were, there was no effort put into the setup of it, and it was just in shitty lighting or whatever the case is. And then, but that person is going to run online and bash a coach who was too hard on them or whatever the case is. So you don't see that. So I do hope, eventually there's a sheet, right? If you're a shitty client, it's like
I kind of like that.
A wanted poster.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that. And that's another thing. And if you're listening, like obviously, like if you're new to this and you're hiring a coach, like don't like get overwhelmed, like, oh, but I'm gonna have so many questions for your coach. Obviously, like you'll set boundaries with your coach. T and I are more like elaborating, like if you've been established with a client and like you listed those things, my biggest thing too is like not following protocol. Like you have a certain amount, be like, hey, instead of having chicken, I had Chinese chicken to rip the breading off, or hey, I know you didn't want me to take this in my cycle, but I wanted to, so I added it in. Like that's just stuff, like it makes it, like I don't like when people go and change stuff, even though I advise against it, because then it's like you have more health issues, you're battling stuff, they're not taking it seriously. So those are kind of the little outliers that we're talking about that's going to make somebody a poor client and not a good client too, is when I think people like the idea of having a coach, but when it comes down to it, they don't. And think of it, it comes back to the coach. I mean, if you're my client and you're not following my protocol, you're a reflection of me, because you're associating yourself with me. So I have a choice of either, after I've tried to address it, I will fire you as a client. And I'm sure to like you can only, I'm not driven by money. So I don't care if you were willing to, you're associated with me and my knowledge. And if you're not, you're just setting a poor reflection to me and my business. So I can't have you associated with that. And that's all the thing. It's like it's all, it's all fair game in love and war. Like you have to understand, like this is a business. Same thing. Like you go to the store and you buy pants that you don't like and you return it. You're not going to bash the store for selling you shitty pants. The same thing, like, did you really, you shouldn't bash the coach for thinking you got a shitty program. You just didn't follow the protocol how it did. So you have to take accountability for that.
Yeah, no, I think it's just business is something I say at least every other day. Like that's how I look at the world. Like it's just business. No feelings are needed. It's just business. So coming up on time, I think we can wrap up there. Drop comments down below. Any questions you have for us? I know we do have some guests coming on the next couple weeks at least. So
I'm so excited. I'm so excited, you guys. These are going to be some great guests. I'm so excited.
Always good to get some different perspectives on here. So if there's just stuff you guys want to see, stuff you want to hear us talk about, drop in the comments. That's what that's for. We're always taking feedback. And then if you want to dive deeper on things, get over to the Facebook group, Muscle Media Network, connect with others. If you're a competitor, it's a good spot to be. You can get different feedback on, we did physique critiques for a while on the Thinking Man's podcast. We'll pick that back up again as show season picks up. It's kind of a downtime right now, but that's everything for Shannon Seeley. I'm Tommy Stiles. We are out.